Hello everyone and welcome to Photo Finds. I'm your host Gavin Hatch and this is episode number 115. So for the month of July, instead of doing a time hop and going back and looking at photos of the parks back in like 2012, 13, 14, 15, just jumping through the different years, I thought it'd be more fun to actually just take a look at some really cool photos that I got and of Disney's Hollywood Studios back in the day before it was Hollywood Studios, back when it was just Disney-MGM Studios. Now, when I was a kid, this park was my absolute favorite park to go to, and it was really just, it was so awesome. It's still a good park, but it's definitely going through some changes right now and having some growing pains, and going to be very different in the years to come. But I thought it'd be cool to look at some pictures of what it used to look like in the early 2000s. So let's take a look. Now, this entrance to Disney's Hollywood Studios is soon to be taken away. They are building a new entrance right now over by the Disney's Art of Animation Resort. So guests will enter from a completely different place, and they are expanding the parking lot. So this entrance here will be gone, and so while you still can get some pictures of it. Now, this picture here was taken back in the early 2000s, and it has, of course, Disney-MGM Studios name on there. It does not say Hollywood Studios, and it does have some photos here. I've always loved the film strip because it advertises the attractions that are new or just they're in the park, because there's always been at times very few attractions or very little attractions in the park to experience. So they have Ariel here, you have Star Tours, the original Star Tours, and you have Playhouse Disney Live, which is now gone. It's been switched over to Disney Junior Live, which I have a picture of that as well here in just a second. But this is the original entrance, and again, it's changed throughout the years because of the film strip and different posters, but this is one that was taken in the early 2000s. Up at the front of the park, not much has changed really. There's been no drastic changes in the design of the entrance. It's really just kind of, you can see up there it said Disney-MGM Studios, and now of course it says Disney's Hollywood Studios, and they've added security since then, but this was taken again around the same time period, if not the same exact day, but again, no big changes up here. It almost looks exactly the same. Now, the archway inside the park is still there, but of course it has changed a bit over the years. It used to have the Disney-MGM Studios logo on there, and it's now Disney's Hollywood Studios, but the archway, even though it's still there, it doesn't really serve the same purpose. It used to actually be where guests, you walk underneath that to go and enter the studio tour, which was a really cool in-depth experience, and you would see actual sound stages where they filmed, you know, different TV shows and different movies. Now, that's something that doesn't happen anymore. The park is strictly a theme park now, but the archway still stands. I miss it. I think it's still great that it's there, but of course it doesn't really serve the same purpose just because, yeah, we don't have those productions going on in the parks these days. Same thing over at, you know, Universal Studios Florida, but I wish it would come back. It's something I really, really miss and really intrigues me. Now, even though the park was essentially an actual working facility for TV shows and films to be produced in, you know, it was still a theme park, but Disney wanted to make sure guests kind of always had that feel walking throughout every area of the park that they were in a movie studio back in California. So they did have different props and elements that were more just for theming and were not real, to make guests feel and make it more believable. But some elements around the park were actually, of course, used for productions. Now, these were placed in different areas throughout the park, and they weren't ever really used for productions. It was just, you know, something you'd see on any studio lot, so they put them there, of course, for theming purposes. Now, if you're in your early or mid-20s or have kids that are in their early or mid-20s, then you probably remember Playhouse Disney. Now, this was something that was on the Disney Channel. It's now called Disney Junior, and they started doing this production, which is really cute, inside the park, Playhouse Disney Live on stage, and over the years, the show has changed and adapted to different shows that are on the actual network, but now, of course, since they have changed the name of the channel, it's Disney Junior Live. It's still there to this day, but there are those rumors out there that it is actually going to be going away very soon. Now, everyone loves Toy Story Midway Mania, but before that was there, it was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Play It. Now, this opened up in the early 2000s, and it was something that was quite unique, you know, taking a TV show on ABC, putting it into a theme park, and actually making it kind of like an interactive, it's not really, of course it wasn't a ride, but it was an interactive show, which was really neat. And of course, you might even learn something by sitting there, and guests had the chance to win prizes. No cash, But other cool things, of course, free things in a theme park are always a win. But this was a really unique experience, something that I enjoyed, but didn't do too often. And it's just so interesting that now that is gone, and it is a major attraction that is super popular and always has a really long line. Now, I was never a fan of Pizza Planet. I love the Toy Story franchise, but I just did not like the restaurant itself because it really did not feel like the one in the movie that I grew up loving so much. Now, of course, today, this is themed to the Muppets character, Rizzo, so he has his own pizza place now, and it's so neat. It's really detailed and themed, and it's fun. It's got great food, and I love how it's part of like the Muppets courtyard, and I love that I've heard that they're expanding the Muppets courtyard, so that's a good thing. I'm all for that. So this is something that a lot of guests miss, of course, but they do still have some great food here at this location. The building is still there. It's just, of course, a different storyline. Now, this is the ABC Theater. It was known as the Superstar Television Theater for the longest time since opening day. It changed its name recently when Frozen came in. The Frozen sing-along show came here, and it was renamed to the Hyperion Theater. But this theater itself, the actual foundation, has been here since opening day with the park. Now, how many of you remember when Disneyland celebrated its 50th anniversary? I know I did. I was 15 years old, and I was so excited for this, and I loved how all the parks around the world were joining in on the celebration. They call it the happiest celebration on Earth, and Disney's MGM Studios back then received the Lights, Motors, Action Extreme Stunt Show, which was something I was not a huge fan of, but we got that. It came over from Paris, and then of course there were other new things and experiences at the other parks as well, but Disney MGM Studios received that this year, and these banners here are long gone, and I've seen some people actually have them in their homes because someone was selling them, but it's interesting here to see that this was a new thing. It was big, it was exciting, and now it's gone as well. Now, love it or hate it, everyone remembers Mickey's Sorcerer Hat being put here in the middle of the park, covering up the Chinese theater. And this was here for the 100 Years of Magic celebration that was honoring Walt Disney's 100th birthday. Now, the hat was cute, but it was just not supposed to be there that long. It was something that I only agreed on being there temporarily, but it stayed there for so many years that a lot of kids were born and grew up with the hat and thought that it should stay. So when it was taken down, it was kind of mixed reviews. We had a lot of people that were happy about that, such as myself, and you had a lot of people that miss it, and again, because they grew up with that. They didn't grow up with the Chinese theater being the focal point of the park. But that's one of the main reasons why I love theme parks, is because they're always changing and evolving. Even though it can be really hard at times and very emotional to see things that you grew up with go away, it's also very exciting to see new things come into play. So in the comments below, let's keep the discussion going. Let's talk about everything that we loved about Disney-MGM Studios and some memories that you've had from attractions that are no longer with us. I want to hear from you, so comment below. And of course, that means that this is the end of Photo Finds. I hope you guys have a great week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to Attractions Magazine. But most importantly, make sure you get out, you have fun, and you enjoy those parks.